Hi, this is Sherry Schwartz, and I want to thank you for starting the series with me. For the Pleasantown Jesus Freaks Series, I'll be reading the conclusion of Confess, the last 5 chapters. Chapter 36. For the scripture says, everyone who believes in him will not be put to shame. Romans 10:11. Davis was quite nervous to be facing the judge today. It was a really long few days waiting for this hearing. There would be no jury like on the television shows. It would be a hearing before a juvenile judge to hear the testimony about the incident. Davis would sit in the room with witnesses and all the others related to the incident, his lawyer beside him, his newly legal parents sitting just behind him. He'd sit before the judge at a table a few feet from his accusers. He was told that their youth pastor and Pastor Dan would be there too. So would Crandall's parents. Greg told him that they were actually going to ask the judge to go easy on him. Not that they were convinced someone else did it, but because they thought enough lives had been ruined already. Davis was still not sure what he was going to say when it came his time to speak. He asked Greg about what he should say, but all Greg could advise him was to pray and ask God to find the right words when the time came. He told Davis that the Lord would not fail him. Davis was baptized just this past Saturday after services, still feeling kind of like a novice Christian who had more questions than answers. He was told that his life would be reborn in Christ, but Davis wasn't sure what that would look like. He didn't know where he would be sent. He didn't know how long he would be sent away. All he knew was that he had parents who would wait for him, friends who would visit, and a forgiving God who he would get better acquainted with. Davis entered the hearing room along with his lawyer, who assured him that everything would be fine. I'm not worried. Whatever happens, this will not be forever, just for now. I'm sure I will deserve whatever the judge decides. Mr. Krebs put his hand on Davis's shoulder and steered him to their table at the front of the room. You'll do fine, son, he assured. Davis pulled out his chair and then turned to smile and wave at Peggy and Glenn. He shook his head and reminded himself that at baptism they insisted they be called Mom and Dad. Peggy blew a kiss, and Davis was a little embarrassed by the small sign of affection, just as any teenager might be when one's mother cooed over her child. Davis looked over his shoulder and saw Corey and Abby and their mom in the room. He also recognized Officer Marchetti, Principal Black, and the girl who saw him leave the bathroom that fateful day. Mr. Krebs warned him that anyone who had anything to do with this case would be there, just in case the judge needed additional information. In a regular court trial, they would not be allowed in the hearing room, but in these hearings, this was a looser procedure. Davis thought he spotted Crandall's mom, the woman who was crying outside of Black's office that day. There was a man sitting next to her who Davis thought was Crandall's father. He could see the resemblance. He had his arm around the woman, both holding her up and comforting her. Davis cast his gaze away, scanning the room for Keegan, whom he couldn't see anywhere in the room. Davis finally took his seat. Then the door opened and the judge, wearing a long black robe, entered to take his seat on the raised dais at the front of the room. Everyone else stood up as he approached his seat. Be seated, boomed the bailiff. Is everyone present? The judge asked the bailiff, who shook his head to indicate that was not the case. Figures, thought Davis. Probably Keegan, gumming up the works, as usual. Let's go ahead and proceed anyway. I'm sure the missing person will turn up sooner or later, the judge encouraged. Okay, I'm familiar with the facts of this case. This young man, the judge pointed to Davis, is accused of pushing another young man in the restroom at school. The consequent brain aneurysm resulted in death. The accused is pleading guilty to being in the room and wants to take responsibility for not stopping an alleged third person from ceasing the bullying of the unfortunate youth. Am I correct so far? Mr. Krebs and the other attorney in the room both nodded. Okay, so really what we are to decide today is whether this young man, Davis, is it? Davis nodded. Right, if this young man is telling the truth. So far, no one has any evidence that puts Danny Keegan in the bathroom with Davis. Just Davis's sworn affidavit. Is that also correct? The other lawyer nodded. Mr. Krebs spoke up. I think I have a line of questioning for Danny Keegan that will put him in the bathroom at the time of the incident. Davis swung his head around to look at his lawyer in surprise. This was complete news to him. He never mentioned any line of questioning to Davis. Okay, I will allow the questioning. Can Danny Keegan please approach the witness stand? He's not here, the bailiff interjected. Does anyone know where Danny Keegan might be right now? The judge surveyed the room. Everyone shook their head. Listen, Judge, I don't think we need to question Mr. Keegan. The school conducted its own investigation, and we had 2 witnesses who saw Davis leave the bathroom alone. One of them is Danny Keegan. Mr. Black stood and fiddled with his tie as he spoke. Who are you? The judge inquired. I'm Lucian Black, principal of Pleasantown Middle School. I read the report, but I still want to hear from this Danny Keegan. Please refrain from addressing the court unless you are directly asked. Is that understood? Principal Black nodded, then he sat right back down. Davis smirked. Ha, Judge told him. Bailiff, why don't you, and is it Officer Marchetti? The policeman nodded. Right. Why don't you two track down this Danny Keegan and bring him to the hearing? We will be in recess until we have Mr. Keegan here. After all, he is a material witness as well as an accused person in this case. The rest of you, please stay in the building until court is returned in session. The judge pounded the gavel. The bailiff told everyone to stand as the judge left the bench. At that moment, the double wooden doors at the back of the hearing room swung open. Get in here. I knew you were a screw-up, just like your brother. Davis recognized Danny's stepdad enter the room, dragging Keegan by the arm. His mother came in behind, hands wringing in front of her, face red and eyes downcast. Who is this? The judge asked the bailiff. Before the bailiff could answer, Keegan's stepdad spoke up. It's my worthless stepson, Danny, Judge. Sorry we're late, but this slacker wouldn't get out of his bed this morning. Davis could see Keegan tense up and stare daggers at his stepfather. Okay, everybody, sit down. You, Danny Keegan, come forward, be sworn in by the bailiff, then take the witness stand. The judge instructed, making his way back to the seat. Everyone else followed suit, except Danny Keegan, who walked as slow as possible, like a man heading to his own execution toward the witness stand. Once again, Davis was filled with compassion for one Danny Keegan. He really wouldn't want to be in those shoes right now. Chapter 37. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the convictions of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Please affirm what you're going to testify is the truth, so help you God. I do. Have a seat, son, the bailiff instructed. Davis sat stiffly erect as the lawyer rose to question Keegan. Davis wasn't sure what Mr. Krebs was planning to ask Keegan, but he hung on every word. Finally, he would have his day in court. Davis just didn't know what kind of lies Danny was prepared to tell. Hi, Danny. My name is Jason Krebs. I'm Davis's attorney. Keegan made no move and uttered no sounds. Danny, you swore in an affidavit to the police that you saw Davis leave the bathroom that day that Crandall died. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Keegan was so polite, Davis hardly recognized him. And what were you doing in the halls that morning? Keegan didn't answer right away. Davis knew from the police reports that Danny said he was getting a drink in the halls before passing to his next class. I was at the drinking fountain just outside the door when the bell rang, and I saw this kid book it from the bathroom. Mr. Krebs, we know all this from the report, the judge warned. You said you had a line of questioning that would yield some additional information. Keegan didn't wait for the lawyer to explain himself. Davis is going to accuse me of being in that bathroom with him and probably tell you I pushed Crandall, not him. And did you? Mr. Krebs asked him directly. I saw him for the first time outside the bathroom. I don't doubt you did, son, but what I was asking is, were you in that bathroom? According to Davis, he had been hiding in the stall and saw you bullying Crandall for money. I was getting a drink. So you weren't in the bathroom? No. It was his first lie under oath. So there was no way you were in the bathroom with Crandall? No, I was getting a drink between passing periods outside the bathroom. Keegan emphasized. So tell me, Danny, why that drinking fountain? It's the closest one to my next class. Having followed all the same classes as Danny Keegan, Davis knew that was the truth. He was starting to lose faith in Jason Krebs. After all, Keegan was lying, and this was all boiling down to Davis's word against Keegan's. And Davis was pretty sure Little Miss Honor Roll Student of the Month who saw him leave the bathroom in a hurry was not going to be discredited. Interesting. According to the teacher in the class you were passing from, you signed out 15 minutes earlier to use the restroom. Yeah, I was using the restroom closest to my class, which isn't the restroom where Crandall was found. That was his second lie. Now this makes little sense to me, Danny, that you would use this bathroom near your class and take almost 15 minutes to go to the restroom and not return to your class for your books, and instead get a drink of water near your next class. How can you explain that? Keegan couldn't. He just sat there looking up, possibly trying to come up with an excuse, but could think of nothing. Davis agreed that nothing he said would make sense. The judge must have taken the silence to mean he was stalling. He demanded, answer the question, please, Danny. I can't explain it, but that's what I did. Danny, I spoke with your teacher, and she said you came back after the next class was well underway to collect your books. Why did you return so late? I had a hall pass to get my stuff because I was telling the principal what happened. Understandable. But you didn't take your books with you to the bathroom and then on to the next class. Why? I didn't expect to be away so long. Ah, so you didn't plan to go from the bathroom clear across to your next class for a drink? No, it just kind of happened. Danny, that doesn't make any sense unless, of course, you're lying. lying about which bathroom you were using, perhaps even lying about how you ended up at the water fountain on the other side of campus, unless you were there in the bathroom with Crandall. Look, no one saw me in that bathroom except him, he pointed at Davis. And Crandall, the lawyer pointed out. Well, he can't say one way or the other now, can he? Keegan replied snidely. No, he can't, and I'm pretty sure you were part of the reason for that. Keegan didn't say anything. Is that all, counselor? The judge directed questions at Mr. Krebs. No, Your Honor. I also had an opportunity to interview all of Danny's teachers. They also happen to be Davis's teachers, too. Well, Davis's, as Jesse, at any rate. The judge nodded in understanding. They all said when they heard that there was an incident in the bathroom that day, they presumed that Keegan had something to do with it. All of them were surprised that he was a key witness and not a participant. That's just speculation on their part, the judge warned. I know, Your Honor, but I found it interesting that all of his teachers knew he had brushes with bullying. In fact, the teacher whose class he left to use the restroom and decided he needed refreshment from the other side of the campus said Keegan left at least once a week for at least 10 minutes at the end of each class. There was the drinking fountain and a bathroom just down the hall. She often confronted him several times regarding the duration of his absences. She even wrote Keegan up for insubordination when he told her the reason he was gone so long in the restroom was because he had his period. Keegan snickered. The judge slammed the gavel down. Enough. Counselor, what does this have to do with the alleged participation in the bullying incident? I'm getting to that, Your Honor. Danny Keegan has a history of being a miscreant. I also have a journal here written by Crandall James retelling an incident of bullying in the same restroom. He doesn't name me, Keegan interjected. No, he doesn't, but he dated the incident. I went to all of Crandall's teachers and got a copy of sign-out sheets and was able to log the dates that he was out of the classroom for bathroom visits. I also went to your teachers and got the same information. And you know what I found? Keegan shrugged. I found that 2 weeks prior to this entry, you were signed out at the same time as Crandall. So? Keegan was being defiant. So you were definitely running around campus for at least 15 minutes that day, the same amount of time as Crandall. In fact, there's been at least 6 times your bathroom visits corresponded to Crandall's. That's just a coincidence. The truth is, you have a reputation at your school for being a bully. Bullying began long before Davis even attended school there, and you've had the opportunity to be in the vicinity of Crandall on numerous occasions. Mr. Krebs excused him from the witness stand. Do you have anything else to add? The judge asked. I'm pretty sure Danny Keegan is not going to confess, but I do hope you will consider that the bullying at the school was going on long before Davis got there, and I suspect that it will continue after Davis is gone, unless the real bully is caught. Thank you. Davis, it says here in the affidavit that you are pleading guilty. If you are not the one who pushed Crandall, as Mr. Krebs asserts, why would you confess? I'd like to hear from you next before I make my decision. Chapter 38. But as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, and knowledge, in all earnestness, and in our love for you, see that you excel in this act of grace also. 2 Corinthians 8:7. Davis rose to be sworn in by the bailiff. He still wasn't sure what he would say that could convince everyone that he was earnestly sorry, yet wholly responsible. He closed his eyes briefly as he swore this oath and prayed that the Lord would give him the words that could explain the myriad thoughts racing through his mind since this all began. Okay, young man, please tell me how you can plead guilty and not guilty. Yes, sir, Your Honor. Davis was already stumbling. He closed his eyes again and took another steadying breath. As I said in my statement, I saw the whole thing. I saw Danny Keegan push Crandall James, but it was my fault. I didn't do anything. I let the whole thing go down. I knew what was happening. If I had spoken up or made a noise or something, it might have been enough to prevent Keegan from pushing Crandall, but I didn't do anything. He paused and took a look at, hard to read this part. He paused to look out at Crandall's parents. Since that day, I've been wondering how God could have let that happen to Crandall. He seemed like a nice kid. He didn't deserve what happened to him. Addressing the Jameses, you didn't deserve to lose your child. And then I thought it was all my fault. I did this to him, not God. So I was pretty angry myself for a while. Then I realized that wasn't the case either. There really is no reason for such a senseless thing to happen to anyone, but it did. But one good thing came out of it. Well, maybe two. My family and I were faced with a terrible situation, and we decided no matter the outcome, we would stay a family. Davis looked at his parents and saw Peggy quietly into a tissue. She smiled and nodded encouragingly. And the second, the judge pressed, I got to know the Lord. He sustained me throughout the ordeal. He drew me closer to him, though Greg and my new friends Corey and Abby. And I really understand the concept of grace. That's why I'm willing to plead guilty, because I deserve to be punished, and I don't need to blame someone else. But son, if you didn't push him, then you're not responsible for what happened, the judge insisted. But I am. I prevented nothing. I allowed it to unfold. I even let Keegan do something so terrible that regardless if he ever confesses, he will have to live with the memory of what really happened. He will carry that guilt with him for the rest of his life, and it will be the most horrible punishment. Believe me, I know, to carry guilt like that. To carry the guilt that there was something I could have or should have done or not done that caused someone such harm. He may not feel it now. He may just be reacting to what is happening, focusing too much on getting out of trouble. And then he hasn't wrestled with the guilt yet, but he will. And when he does, he will carry this with him forever unless he asks for forgiveness. So Keegan, I am sorry I did not stop you from pushing Crandall that day. I'm sorry you will carry what really happened with you for the rest of your life, and I know you well enough to know that sooner or later it will happen. We got to know each other pretty well, or at least Jesse got to know you, so I feel pretty bad about what's going to happen to you, even if you never get punished from a judge today. You will punish yourself forever, and that will be my fault because I didn't stop you. Davis was looking at Keegan during his long explanation, but Keegan wouldn't return his gaze, so Davis kept pressing. Danny, I really am sorry, and I hope you can forgive me. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be stuck in here for a while, and I just want you to know that I'm okay about that because I deserve it. But I also want you to know that when you start to think about what happened that day, you can ask for forgiveness too. You can ask Jesus to forgive you, and you will be filled with a kind of peace. I found it, and you can too. Oh, if you ever want to talk about it, you can talk to me or Corey or even Abby anytime, and we'll listen and not judge you. We promise. Davis could see Abby and Corey nodding at them. Cut that salvation talk out and get on with it, Keegan's stepdad groused. Punish the kid already, and you had better stay away from those Jesus freaks, or else, he warned, waving a fist in Keegan's face. The judge slammed his gavel down. Quiet, and please don't refer to these kids as freaks again in my presence, or I will have you removed. No need, I'm removing myself. Let's get out of here, he grabbed Danny by the arm to forcibly drag him off his feet and through the massive doors. I don't have to listen to this religious talk. It's in the Constitution. The boy needs to stay until he's dismissed. You, however, are being ejected. Bailiff? Davis saw Keegan's mom hesitate, not sure if she should stay or follow. Before she could decide, her husband turned to her and spat out, Stay here with your bad seed. I'm out of here for good. She looked mortified but sat down again next to Danny, put his arm around his mother, and looked revolted by his stepfather's words. She leaned into the crook of his arms and heaved silent sobs. The judge must have been so repulsed by these events that he started to look a little more conciliatory towards Danny. Keegan, son, are you all right? Keegan nodded. Davis, that was a moving speech you made, and I too am a believer, and I've seen many kids come and sit exactly where you are, lying and blaming others for their own actions. I cannot, based on the evidence, say one way or the other if you were alone in that restroom or whether you pushed Crandall James, but I do see that you have accepted responsibility for your part in the events of that day, and I will be meting out a punishment that will benefit your participation. Davis nodded, thinking that the end was coming pretty quickly and soon he'd begin his sentence. He was prepared for whatever the judge decided. Depending on the severity of the charge, the judge would determine if he served 6 months or 6 years. But before the judge pronounced his sentence, he wanted to hear from character witnesses. Mr. Krebs advised him that their testimony might influence the judge's verdict. His parents, of course, testified they believed their son and believed him so fully that they sought to finalize their adoption even before Davis turned himself in. Officer Marchetti testified that Davis surrendered himself with the utmost deportment. He stated he had never come by a youth so mature and willing to accept responsibility. Abby and Corey each told how they believed Davis so much that they mistakenly assisted him in his attempt to clear his name. They also told how they had misjudged him, as many others had done before. Pastor Dan testified that Davis was so concerned about Crandall's parents' feelings and expressed such remorse over the incident that he felt compelled to witness for Davis. Greg told of Davis's insistence on being baptized and his interest in being part of the ministry inside of the detention center. But Davis knew they would all say this about them. What he didn't know was what Crandall's parents were going to say. As they approached the judge's bench, Davis wrung his hands in his lap. He prayed most fervently that God would give them some peace. No one, not even Davis or Danny, would suffer as much as they surely do. Mrs. James spoke first. Davis, we don't know if you were the one that pushed Crandall that day. Only the Lord knows. But we want you to know that we forgive you, and we hope the judge won't be too harsh on you. Enough time and sadness is wasted on this accident. We know now that this could have happened at any time, a fall from the bike, a bad hit in soccer, whatever. We are sorry we lost him sooner rather than later, but we're grateful for the time we had with him. We know he is with the Lord now, and that brings us comfort. We also hope, Mr. James added, looking at Principal Black, that the school board and the school will shine a light on bullying and work to end it in our schools so that there's not another tragedy. Principal Black, Davis noted, would not return in their gaze. We also wanted you to know, Danny, that if you did have something to do with this, that Davis is right. You need to confess it to God and ask for forgiveness. Mrs. James addressed Danny directly. I want to thank you all for your candid responses as to Davis's character. I will need a short recess and will be back shortly to give my verdict. Court is in recess. The gavel came down and everyone stood as the judge left. And now they waited. Chapter 39. Go and learn for what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice, for I came not to call the righteous but sinners. Matthew 9:13. All rise. Court is back in session, the bailiff announced as the judge entered the room. Davis spent the last 30 minutes in relative quiet. Mostly his parents and Mr. Krebs plied him with words of encouragement, of which he heard about every third word. He couldn't help but worry that his words didn't reach the ears they needed. He was comfortable with the forgiveness extended to him all around and was not sure he had any impact on one Danny Keegan. Davis, as much as I'd like to extend my mercy to the point that you do not receive the punishment that the law requires for your participation in this incident, I cannot. I cannot pardon you. I can, however, offer you a lenient sentence, and that's what I've chosen to do. Although the evidence presented this morning during this testimony does raise questions, it does not exonerate you. And for that, I am sorry. Short of a full confession by the person responsible for the action of pushing Crandall James that caused his untimely death, I can require you to serve the minimum sentence. So that is what I will carry out. You will serve 6 months, minus the time already served in the juvenile detention facility here in Pleasantown. I see no reason to send you away from the community where you have made your new home. It is my greatest wish you continue your spiritual journey with your family by your side near your church community, and I sincerely believe you will affect the lives of young men there in the detention center. As long as you will be there, I am sorry that I cannot soften the sentence any more than this, because this is what the law requires. May I please speak, Your Honor? Davis asked meekly. Please don't feel badly for me. I believe I deserve much worse. I only hope I will live up to your expectations. I don't know why I cry when I read this every time. Good luck, son. Case closed. All rise, the bailiff ordered. Wait! Danny leapt up to his feet and started to approach the bench. Was this it? Did Danny Keegan finally grow a real conscience? Davis wondered. What is it, son? The judge asked. The others in the courtroom sat back and watched the drama unfold. Danny, you don't have to do it. Davis stopped him from saying anything else. It's all right. I accept my punishment. I forgive you. You don't need to be punished, too. No, Davis, I can't let you take all of it on your shoulders. I don't deserve it. I am not worth it. Yes, Danny, you are. And until you believe that, you will not understand what I have been saying. No, Davis, I'm not worth it. I am a bully and a liar. And I was there in the bathroom, Your Honor. I pushed Crandall. And like the journal entry went, it wasn't the first time. He didn't deserve it. Danny appealed to Crandall's parents, but I was so jealous. He seemed to have everything. Nice clothes, good family, close friends. I just wanted him to, oh, I don't know, calm down a little. I know it was wrong, and I'm sorry I killed him too, and I lied to your face, and I shamed myself and my mother, and for what? I am not even worth the trouble. Danny confessed. Please just take me away. In light of this confession, I would like to re-enter a new sentence. The judge interrupted me. Davis, you will be released today. Time served. Thank you, Your Honor. But if it would please the court, I'll serve the original sentence. As you said, I think I have some work to do at the center. Plus, I think Danny could use some company until he's been tried. Davis, that is magnanimous of you, but I am afraid I can't let you do that. However, I advise that you volunteer with your church to continue your Sunday ministry under their supervision. He turned his attention back to the proceeding. Bailiff, escort Danny to the center and see that he is well treated. Mr. Krebs approached Danny and his mother immediately, offering his services free of charge, to which they both gladly accepted. Wait, Davis shouted to the bailiff, taking Danny away. Hey, visiting hours this afternoon begin around 3. Care to have some company? Sure, I guess if you want to. Can we come too? Corey asked as he and Abby made their way toward the two boys. Okay. Danny didn't seem to know what else to say. Yeah, and we can plan your defense. We can be your character witnesses. We have plenty of experience, Abby added. And Danny gave a wry smile. Yeah, I guess you guys do. Glad to have you on my side for a change. I certainly can't outwit you. Well, of course not. We had God on our side, Abby added. And the Lord is on your side too, Danny. He loves you because he loves all his Jesus freaks, Davis winked. You'll see. And if you're really, really lucky, you'll get the same judge. He seems pretty merciful. Yeah, sorry about that too. About what? Corey asked. About calling you guys Jesus freaks. I guess I really didn't know what this was all about, so I just made fun of it. That's okay. We have plenty of experience with that too, and be happy to help you out if you're interested, Abby offered. Thanks. I really don't deserve all of this. Danny gestured, outstretching his arms. Sure you do. We all deserve to be forgiven. Davis reiterated. He came to rescue us sinners, and if he can reform me, well, he can handle you too. We have to go, the bailiff interrupted them. Yeah, okay. We'll see you guys, Danny offered as the others watched him be let off. Davis knew Danny would be okay now. He knew how good it felt to come clean and to serve a punishment that was deserved, and of course, appreciate mercy when it came to. It was an ordeal trying to get Danny Keegan to confess, but if he had gone through the It was an ordeal trying to get Danny Keegan to confess, but if he hadn't gone through the experience, he didn't know if he could have accepted all the blessings he had received, his family, friends, church, and the Lord. Davis, honey, let's go home, Peggy interrupted his thoughts. Yeah, let's go home, Davis agreed, turning back to Abby and Corey as he went to leave. He shouted, see you guys this afternoon? Got a lot of planning to do. Yeah, and won't it be nice not to have to try and trick Danny into doing the right thing, Abby joked. Sure will, and hopefully you all will see that Danny's not all bad, Corey offered. Okay, you two. Davis intervened in the old standing argument between these two siblings. See you later. I get to go home now. Chapter 40. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Davis was excited that day. It was the first since Danny Keegan was released from Pleasantown Juvenile Detention Center and would hopefully be going to youth group with him and Corey that evening. It had been a long 6 months since his own trial and subsequent pardon, and Mr. Krebs was able to get Danny sentenced to 6 months, the minimum required by law. Danny pleaded no contest to the charge of aggravated assault, and the good news was he was a minor, so he would not have a criminal record once he reached 18. Best of all, the Jameses came to the sentencing and pleaded with the judge to be lenient, so he was. While Danny was serving his sentence, Davis saw Danny at least once a week. Corey and Abby also visited together when they could. Plus, Davis went back Sundays that his church conducted their services. Davis handed out Bibles, helped set up and clean up, and set small groups with other boys who were interested in staying after the services. He was there to assist in a couple of baptisms, including Danny Keegan's. Danny was allowed to stay back a while, and they had long conversations about Jesus with Greg, helping them read scripture and answer some of their big God questions. Now Danny was getting out, and Davis was looking forward to spending more time together. He was able to convince the church to hire Danny to paint an Easter mural of Calvary. The two had been planning what it would look like. Well, Davis consulted, and Danny drew it. Danny sketched dozens of pictures, and 2 of them had been read, and they reread the crucifixion so many times that they knew it by heart. They planned to work on it the next few weeks once they got their paints together and laid out the blank canvas on one of the walls near the meeting rooms for Wednesday night youth groups. Danny was now planning on studying art in college and hoping that he could make a career of it someday. Davis had no idea what he wanted to do, but Greg kept trying to convince him that he should go into ministry. Maybe they'd even get to go to Paris someday. Best of all, Danny was writing and calling his other brother, the one who was also locked away for drugs. He had been encouraging him to attend services at his facility, and Danny had been witnessing about his own transformation and baptism. He was very encouraged that his brother might accept Christ too. Danny was hoping that they might be able to celebrate Christmas together, and his mother and the whole church were praying for that. Of course, Abby was the source of all prayer requests. Corey did his part by making sure his sister saw the good side of Danny Keegan, like sharing Danny's sketches. Danny rang the front doorbell, or Davis rang the front doorbell at Danny's house. Danny told him a lot of things had changed since he went away. His parents got divorced. Though they knew that divorce was not always the answer to marriage trouble, Danny was glad not to be a constant source of friction in the house. His older brother was out of the army and decided to come home and live with his mother. He planned to go to college and study accounting on his GI Bill. Danny said his brother had been giving his mom some money for rent, so they were doing okay. She didn't have to work as many nights and weekend shifts like she did before. His mother was also glad to have the big brother home because he promised he would crack Danny's head in if he ever tried to steal money again. Of course he wouldn't, but he did give his brother enough noogies to start a bald spot. At least that's what Danny claimed. Danny's brother answered the door. "Oh, hey, Davis," he greeted. "Yep," thought Davis. Danny's big, buff brother could certainly crack his head if he wanted to, but Davis knew better. Danny idolized his older brother and would not put one foot out of line while he was around. "Hey, Danny around? Yeah, come on in. Supper's on. Want to join us?" "Sure. Wash up first," Danny's mother warned. "Yes, ma'am," Davis complied. He remembered where the bathroom was. Strange that he was back here, and the atmosphere was so different. They sat together at the table, planning the rest of the day. Danny took out his drawing folder and showed everyone the sketches he'd been working on for the mural. He looked so proud, and Davis knew that Danny was no longer the feared bully. He was Danny Keegan, artist, loving son and brother, and Davis's new best friend. Davis was always a little choked up when he thought about Crandall, but knowing that Davis and Danny were changed because of what happened gave him some comfort. He went out of his way to be polite and gracious whenever he saw the Jameses at church. In fact, his parents told him that they approached them about getting information of being foster parents themselves. They hoped one day to adopt a child too. Davis knew it was hard for them to see Davis alive and happy, and hoped one day they would not always associate Davis with what happened to Crandall. At least that's what he's prayed for. "So, Davis, we're on for youth group tonight," Danny interrupted his thought. "Yeah, my folks can take us if you want to go with me." "That'd be just fine," Danny's mother accepted on his behalf. "Cool, we can leave in about an hour. In the meantime, want to go hang out at the park?" "Mom, may I go with Davis?" "That'd be fine. Just put on a jacket. It's going to be cool tonight." "Oh, Mom." "Scoot," she insisted. She turned to Davis as Danny left the room. "Davis, you have been an answer to prayer. Thank you for all you did for Danny. He really is a good boy. He's just a little mixed up. You have been a good influence on him." "Oh, Mom," Danny protested. "Well, he has," his brother chimed in, "so you better not screw up or I'm going to crack your head in." His brother reached over and gave him a noogie. "Geesh, come on, Davis, let's get out of here." So Davis laughed with his best friend. Funny, he thought, how God works. 7 months ago, he was alone in the world, and turned out the whole world was right here in Pleasanton. "This place definitely doesn't bite." "Huh?" Danny asked as they headed down the sidewalk towards the park. "Nothing," Davis muttered. "I was just thinking about how life is pretty funny." "No kidding, right? Here I am walking with my best friend, who at one time was my worst enemy and my partner in crime and a criminal mastermind. God does work in mysterious ways." "You said it, man. Yay, God. Yay, God." Well, I hope you enjoyed, through my tears, the last 5 chapters of Confess. Again, thank you for starting the series with me. And if you'd like to find out what happens next, especially for the James family and that goal of maybe wanting to foster and adopt another child, you should read the preview from Confess, or just go ahead and pick up Sacrifice. Thanks for listening.